My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Membership means more with American Express Business Gold. Earn 4 times membership rewards points in your top 2 eligible spending categories every month, including eligible U.S. advertising purchases and select media, and U.S. purchases at restaurants, including takeout and delivery. What are you waiting for? Get the card that flexes with your spending every month. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the meaning and the power of the most important story in business. The one that answers why somebody should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. At WordWrite, we call that your capital S story. In each episode of Storylines Live, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your business do a better job of sharing your capital S story to drive remarkable business results. In this episode, we're honored to have Natalie Doyle Oldfield of Success Through Trust as our guest in an occasional series that touches on healthcare. Very excited because Natalie is something that you don't find anywhere else in business. She is the leading expert on how companies grow revenue by creating trusted relationships. And folks, sharing an authentic story by a fluent storyteller and continually engaging your audience is one way of building trust. I'm really excited to talk to Natalie about this because she's the author of the best-selling book, Trusted: The Proven Path to Customer Loyalty and Business Growth, and The Power of Trust: How Top Companies Build, Manage, and Protect It. She's the creator of the Client Trust Index, which is, we'll talk more about this. The concept is trust equity. It's something that Natalie's been able to measure. She's probably the only person in the world who can do this. And she does it so well that The Economist has recognized her as being the top business trust expert in the world. And that's a big freaking deal. Natalie, welcome to Storylines Live. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Anything I missed in your background that you think our audience would appreciate knowing about you?
Well, I love books. I'm in a couple of book clubs. I love to travel, and I'm learning and trying to be a good golfer and learning and trying to learn how to sail. So I do lots of things in addition to working with companies.
I think that's great. One of the things that in our work really helps build a complete story when we're working with leaders is understanding what else there is to their lives. You know, for instance, my own pursuits outside of work include things like stand-up comedy and other things. If you follow WordWrite or you follow me on socials, you probably heard about my band, The Altered Egos, which I'm really excited to be a part of. It's so important. So thank you for sharing that. That's really great.
Yeah.
When we kick off an episode, we always ask our guests about their capital S story. And we asked them which of those four questions I described at the show open is most important to them right now in their business. So, which of those is most important to you?
Partnering. I think partnering is most important. I think we want to buy with from, work with, invest in companies that we and people
Yes.
that we trust, people that we want to partner with, people that we want to collaborate with and do business with. So I would say partnering, and it's so important. And we not only do we want to buy from people that we partner with, we want to get advice and work with people that we feel like we have a partnership with.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Natalie and I folks had met earlier and talked about this, and I mentioned to her that in my own career, there was a fellow named David Maister who had written a book about trusted advisors and this concept
Yes.
of the ultimate measure of trust. Well, actually, now it's the trust and equity index, but we'll talk about that. But for Maister, it was if you were really truly an expert at something and you had the trust of your customer or client, they would ask your opinion on issues that didn't have anything to do with whatever they hired you to do. So
That's
maybe
right.
they hired you to be an attorney or an accountant or a PR marketing resource, and they asked your opinion on people,
Yeah.
all sorts
Yeah.
of right?
Yeah. I mean, all throughout not only business, but in our personal lives too, when someone really trusts your opinion and we call it in our business, we call it a trusted advisor. You
Yes.
ask for their not only their opinion, but their advice, their perspective on things that may have to do with, who can renovate an office
Yes.
or, who should we hire as an accountant or who should we hire as an engineering firm whenever there's a project upcoming.
Yeah, it's to me one of those litmus tests of
Yeah.
trust, right? When you're having a conversation with your customer or client, it's not all
Mhm.
about the work, the core of the work that you're doing. Natalie, you didn't set out to become the world's business trust expert. Tell our audience a little bit about how you wanted where you went to.
No, I did not set out to this, but actually, so I spent several years, 25 years of my career in different roles in marketing and communications and in product management and even project management a little bit, and eventually in sales and in various IT companies in Canada and in the US. And several years ago, I decided, okay, I'm going to take on the role of sales. And I had spent 20 years in marketing and really did not know how to do sales. And I had never taken any marketing courses or sales. I take lots of marketing, but not any sales courses.
Right.
And I took this over. So this is probably something we should edit because I got to be quicker for you, Paul.
No worries.
Several years ago, I was working for an IT company and everything was going great. I was responsible for marketing, for communications, for product management, and we had an amazing team of people. And there became an opening for a new salesperson. And the head of the company asked me to take that on. And
Wow.
I said, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that," because I had never taken any sales training and I didn't know how to do sales. And quite honestly, I was very happy with what I was doing. However, I decided after much conversation over several months to do it. So I said, okay, I'll take this challenge on. However, as we all know, when you're in sales, it's very accountable, Paul. You
Yes.
either making
Driven.
sales or you're not. You're
Mm-hmm.
either getting an order or you're not. So I was quite hesitant. So hesitant that, like I said, it took a while. Anyhow, I fast forward, I said I'll do it. And then 1 week later, the world's largest financial crisis of its in 100 years in 2008
Oh boy.
came. And we were selling software as a service and services around that. And as you can imagine, many of our customers put things on hold or
Mm.
canceled orders.
Yes.
And I had just taken on this new team and this new role. So I looked around and thought, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do now? So I was doing as much research as I could on how to sell. And I decided to ask all the people I knew, Paul, that were doing such a great job
Mm-hmm.
selling, how to do it. And they all said, Natalie, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep focusing on the clients and providing advice and value and anything you can. Well, the whole team, that's all we did. We focused on that. And eventually, several months later, when things started to settle out, the sales started coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got so interested in how is it that some companies are so successful and other companies aren't in a business to business environment, because that's really where my most of my background is. And I went back to school with the intention to find out the answer to that question that I've always been wondering about, like why do people buy? What makes people tick? But
Mm-hmm.
really, what is it that differentiates a company from being successful to not? So I went back to do graduate research and found out very quickly the answer is trust.
Mm.
You see, when a company or a firm or a small business or a large enterprise has the trust of its customers and its employees and its stakeholders, they are more successful. I got so excited about this that it's really it became it became so clear to me when I was looking at how is it that customers decide to trust that this is it.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a framework using the scientific method and then a principles-based model and a measurement tool, Paul, because
Oh,
I was working part-time while
right.
I was doing my master's. I was working, well, actually, flip that. I was working full-time and I did my master's part-time. And I realized that, what can be measured can be managed. And my whole career, as I'm sure for many, many people that are listening and you too, Paul, it was
Yes.
always like what gets measured can be managed. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Exactly.
So I decided to create a measurement tool because I couldn't find one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created this framework and this system measurement tool that I call the Client Trust Index to measure that very precious asset I call trust equity.
Mm-hmm.
So I got so excited about this because I was applying everything I learned and my model and it was working. So I was telling everybody about it. Because what I found is that your trust equity score,
Mm-hmm.
there's a statistically significant correlation between your trust equity score, how much your customers trust you,
Right.
and the future success of your business. Very specifically, I measured it with commitment, with loyalty,
Oh,
with intention to recommend or refer, and the intention to continue to buy products and services. So like I said, I got so excited about this that I started working with companies full time to teach them this. So, almost 11 years ago now, I started the company Success Through Trust, and I um, share how to do this and measure trust equity for companies and teach them the step by step evidence based system to build relationships of trust.
That is really phenomenal, Natalie. Just mind-blowing to me. And I'm sure many in our audience are going to feel exactly the same way. So trust is the pinnacle, the ultimate in business, especially in business to business relationships that we're looking to attain.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a podcast about storytelling, and we have a
Yeah.
take on storytelling. I'm curious, in the process of building trust in business, where do you think storytelling sits? What's your take on storytelling?
Oh, it's extremely important. It's extremely important. There are so many examples of trusted companies that their stories sits at the foundation of why they're so trustworthy.
Mhm.
So where does it fit? It's right in the center.
Right.
We trust people when we know who they are,
Yes.
when we understand their perspective, when there's mutual understanding. And a wonderful way to do that is to share the story of the company. And, one of the things that I don't really talk about in my new book, Trusted, that you mention, but there are different dimensions of trust:
Mhm.
cognitive, behavioral, and emotional.
Yeah,
And storytelling not only can help people understand another person's perspective and where they want to go and what they're all about, but it can also help with the emotional side.
absolutely.
And, you know, I think that it's extremely important. It's one element of building trust, and it's a really important element.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I look at storytelling as being a critical means of communicating and establishing trust. There's a lot of overused phrases in business. Uh,
Yes.
the story is, uh, on one level, talking the talk,
Yeah.
and the actual delivery of walking the walk is also necessary to build trust, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Folks, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to dig into what Natalie does at her company and how she helps her clients. Don't go away. We'll be back in a few seconds.
My dad works in B2B marketing, but I never really knew what that meant. Then one day my dad came by my school for career day and told everyone in my class he was a big ROAS man. Then he just kept saying things like, the bigger the ROAS, the better, over and over. My friends still laugh at me to this day. I think it means calculating a return on ad spend. One thing's for sure, I'll be known as the ROAS man's kid for the rest of my days. Why couldn't you just be a fireman or a lawyer? Why? You ruined my life, Dad.
Not everyone gets B2B, but LinkedIn has the people who do. And with ads on LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people based on job title, industry, likelihood to buy, and more. Start converting your B2B audience into high-quality leads today. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Welcome back, folks. This episode of Storylines Live, we're talking trust in business, one of the pinnacle necessities to success. And we are honored to have with us in this episode Natalie Doyle Oldfield, who is, at least according to The Economist, the top business trust expert in the world because of her trust measurement tool. And it's a great conversation we're having this episode, Natalie. What I really want to do now is I want to dig into how you help your clients. Can you give your audience a sense of the work you do, the process?
Sure. Well, usually it starts with someone saying to me, Natalie, our sales are down.
Mhm.
Customers are ghosting us. For whatever reason, things are flat or churn is increased. we've got lots of leads coming in, but nothing's turning into sales. Or I just wish everybody on the team would care as much about the customer as I do.
Yes.
That's usually how it starts. And then it goes into, well, trust, that's fluffy, that's esoteric. How do you make that tangible? And so it always starts with a business challenge when I work with a client. And I thought what I would do is share a story, share a real client story with you
Absolutely.
to help describe what I do. Because I can say I do primary research and I do leadership development and training, but really, what does that mean? So when a client comes to me, I'm thinking about this manufacturing company that's in the, I would say, medical diagnostics,
Hmm.
healthcare industry. They
Sure.
came to me on a really hot summer day, actually, out on a patio. I sat with the owner and the CEO, and he said to me, you know, I built this company. We're 30 years old. And things have been going great. We have customers all over the world. But in the last year or so, I've noticed that sales are flat. And I've noticed that the margins are decreasing.
Hmm.
Now, this owner is a CPA and he watched the numbers. And
Close.
everybody on his team said, it's just we've had changes in the marketplace. It has nothing to do with us. Yet he also, would hear about all these new opportunities at trade shows and his team would tell him about it. They had all these leads coming in, but they weren't turning into sales for them. So he knew there was something going on, but he didn't know what.
Hmm.
And so we talked and I said, well, I suspect at the heart of all this, there's a trust issue.
Hmm.
And like I said, it's fluffy. People don't know what that means. They say, and he said, well, of course, of course it is. Yet a lot of people don't pay attention to that, Paul. They
Right.
don't realize it.
Because they
So
can't do anything about it, or
they
it's
can't do
too
anything about
hard.
it. And how do you wrap your arms around that?
Exactly.
So best case scenario, which he was, which is why I wanted to share with you, we actually surveyed their customers. They
Wow.
had several hundred customers
Mhm.
across North America. And they primarily sell their products to laboratories and hospitals, private and public, and university hospitals.
Mhm.
And we measured the trustworthiness. So we have measurement dimensions. I surveyed them, and we also tailored the system, the
Mhm.
survey, and customize it so that we could ask questions about their brand and their company. And we
Mhm.
asked a few questions that could check off the box because they're ISO certified company. And so we asked about lead time and, delivery time, those kinds of things too.
Sure.
And fast forward, we got some great insight. We were able to find the cracks. We pinpointed that they had challenges with companies on the West Coast.
Hmm.
They had challenges with companies that were in a relationship with them for 6 to 10 years. You
Hmm.
see, when I survey, we always do what I call a segmentation analysis.
Yes.
It
Critical.
helps you pinpoint where the challenges are. And so, he would describe me as, the person to call to find out where your challenges are and identify the top three things you should do to address a problem.
Hmm.
His team didn't think there was a problem, and there wasn't really a big problem, Paul. They scored really high. They had a trust equity score in the mid 80s,
Wow.
which is kind of on the edge of being a trusted advisor.
Wow.
However, they had all the signals or the signs of low trust equity.
Hmm.
So, with that information, what we did is was we did some internal training and talked about how to build trust so that everybody would have the same vocabulary. They
Yeah.
knew where the challenges were. one of the things that was so shocking to him, and I'm going to say shocking because he was shocked, was that they scored really low in the area of transparency.
Huh.
They scored low in the area of commitment to the long term. So he was
Wow.
shocked because he said, we are very transparent. However, what happened, Paul, is they actually changed some of the materials in the instrumentation product that they made. And
Okay.
so when they sent it out to labs, the product, the instrument didn't perform the way that they
Oh,
promised it would.
oh goodness.
And they had had some staff changes over the last few years and
Mhm.
didn't openly tell everyone. And then the customers would find out at a trade show or if they were calling in for support.
Yeah.
The other area where they scored low was commitment to the long term. And he was pretty upset about that. Like I said, he was shocked. And he said, Natalie, we have a great reputation. I don't understand this.
Hmm.
Well, what I explained to him is reputation is about past performance.
Yes.
Trust is a predictor of future success.
Wow.
So, in addition to this training that we did and professional development sessions with
Mhm.
all the team, we pinpointed the folks who were customer facing. So, some people that are project managers, QA testers, sales engineers, field services staff, business development folks, and a few scientists who would collaborate and partner to write academic papers with
Sure.
other
Sure.
scientists. And they all learned how to build and strengthen relationships of trust. And the other thing that happened was they also became what I would call sales sensitive. They
Hmm.
all learned to identify opportunities.
Hmm.
So within about 6 months of surveying their customers and then finding out where they needed to do the work, who
Mhm.
they needed to train, and which customers they really needed to put a push on. Like I said, they knew the regions in the industry. Not only did the leads come in, but they actually closed on them, and then their margins started going back up, and the revenue started going back up.
Hmm.
A year later, I'll never forget because we went to the same restaurant, sat on the same patio in
Mhm.
downtown, in this big downtown core. And he said, our sales are back up. In fact, we're up over 15% where we were last year.
Wow.
So they weren't losing trust. However, he knew from these signals that something was happening.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff I do.
That is just an awesome case study. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, I'm sure even for those who are just listening to the audio, they can't tell you're passionate about what you do. I certainly can. Just being a little funny there. But what brings you the most satisfaction in the work you do, Natalie?
I am passionate.
Mhm.
I'm curious and I love helping companies grow, Paul. So for me, the most satisfaction is helping a business owner or a leader move the needle. On helping them build a relationship, get a new partnership, increase retention. I just love that. I love watching business owners grow and helping them grow.
Mhm.
And I love working with people one on one too. So I
Yeah.
have this program. So that company I talked to you about,
Right.
we did the research and then we did then I presented to the whole company and then I worked with a group of people in that company. So all those people that I mentioned that were customer facing.
Yeah.
So I love doing that because, we have group work together and then there's private one-on-one coaching to really help individuals. And so not only do I love helping companies grow, I love it when I see the light bulb go off and
Mhm.
someone's like, oh, And someone who's not in business development, bring in a new sale. I love that because it changes their whole career.
Mhm.
And, you know, it not only changes their career, but it can make a company that's amazing, like catapult them when they learn that it's all about trust and how to do that.
Natalie, when we have folks like you on the podcast, well, I'll call it transformational, visionary idea people. And oftentimes I think because of the work that somebody like you does, it's really kind of difficult to answer my next question. But I think it's kind of important for the audience to have an idea uh,
Okay.
of what your competitive set is. So, a lot of times I think like trust, we talked about it being ephemeral, and until you came along, maybe hard to measure. So, maybe somebody would say, trust, I know I got problems, but I don't know what to do about it. There's no
Yeah.
solution out there. But are there competitors to what you do? And if so, who might they be and how are you?
Well, I think for every business, there are competitors.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what business or what industry you're in.
Great.
And there's always people talking about whatever it is that, whether, you publish books or you give advice in accounting or law or whatever it is, there are always competitors. I think that the one thing that is different about me and my company, Success Through Trust, is everything we do, all of our tools, our systems, our frameworks are evidence-based. They're built on science. And when things are evidence-based and built using the science, it becomes a system, Paul, that you can learn. It's practical and you can apply it. And I think that's what makes us different is everything is based on science.
Well, apparently the economist agrees with you, so that's great validation, my friend. That's for darn sure.
Thank
Natalie, anything that I didn't ask you about that you think our audience should know about you?
you. Yes, there's one very important thing.
Mhm.
You can have the best product in the world with the most patents,
Mhm.
with the fanciest marketing and the best public relations, with a company that has the best technology, the best processes, the best procedures. But at the end of the day, people buy from people they trust. The critical trust risk point for every company, it's not the product, it's not the technology, it's the people. And that's really where it all comes down to. It's how the people communicate, which brings in the storytelling, how the people communicate, how they serve, and how they behave. This is the most important thing for companies to know. Like it really comes down to the people.
Mhm. Wow, Natalie, that's just a huge knowledge bomb. Beautiful. Thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that. How can people best reach you?
Well, you can reach out to me directly through my website, which is successthroughtrust.com. You can email me directly. I answer my emails. I don't have AI or a bot do that.
Good.
It's ND Oldfield at Success Through Trust, or sorry, N Oldfield. Oh, I need to record this again. Sorry, Paul.
All right.
You can reach me directly by going to my website, which is successthroughtrust.com. You can reach out to me directly by email at noldfield at successthroughtrust.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with you there, and you can find me on LinkedIn at Natalie Doyle Oldfield.
Natalie, it's been such a great pleasure having you join us for this episode of Storylines Live. Thank you.
It's great to be here. I do have one last thing, actually.
Absolutely, please.
I have an assessment on my website if anyone wants to see how their team is doing, how their company is doing. And you can find that on my website. It will pop up when you go there. And it's also on LinkedIn. And, it takes 2 minutes. And if you want to connect with me to walk through the assessment, happy to do that. And if not, you'll have it. You'll see all the things that you can do to improve and where your cracks are.
That's great, Natalie. Thanks for sharing that, folks. Be sure to check that out. We'll include that in the show notes. Natalie, once again, thanks for being on Storylines Live. And thank you to our audience, our loyal audience, for joining us for the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. The story that defines the very character and nature of your organization, your capital S. See you next time on the next episode of Storylines Live.
Thank you.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Hennika Watkis-Porter hosts The Entrepreneurial You, empowering entrepreneurs with insights on leadership, business, and success. Hennika, tell listeners what to expect from your show.
So we provide innovative business strategies and practical solutions to common entrepreneurial challenges.
And where can people subscribe?
Find us at hennikawatkisporter.com, as well as the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net, or search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.